It seems like at some point my Discord or my stream stopped recording audio, and I don't know if it was on my old videos as well. Yeah, it wasn't. I haven't been getting audio. That is crazy. Alright, so I want to work on, we're going to be playing the Necromancer, my Warrior Necromancer a little bit. Alright, because it's in the second act, or the second part of the game. So he makes more money, because we need to regenerate some gold in order to start resetting some traits on our characters. But apparently all the stuff that I recorded the other day about different characters, I ended up losing. But our Death Knight, basically, we were going to go down the poison route and grab all these poison nodes for it. But we're getting more into, we saw that there was these chaos nodes up here that we could get access to. And like this one will give him a massive bonus in chaos damage. And poison damage is chaos damage, technically. And then down here, we had this 12% increased spell damage while holding a melee weapon. So you get 12, 12, 12. So you're getting 36% damage increase here. And then 32%. So you're getting like almost 70% bonus spell damage with the melee weapon. And then on that character, I'm planning on coming down here. I don't know if there's a difference between damage and spell damage, because we have this 1% increased damage per 1% chance to block. So that's probably a good question to figure out. That's from Path of Exiles 1, but since it's the same game developer, I would assume they're somewhat the same, maybe. So, our Chaos Knight, or Death Knight, basically is going to get all these Chaos nodes and the bonus spell damage, and then we're going to get blocking giving us mana, blocking giving us health, and then we're going to get increased damage based on percent chance to block, and then double our chance to block. And then we're going to get the idea is that we'll get a mace and shield. Just for general use, physical damage is multi-purpose. Maybe. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do. Essentially, there's a shield that we can use that turns our block chance into elemental resistance, and if we do that, our character could have a very high elemental resistance, but we wouldn't have any block chance at all. But we could get like 100% elemental resistances or something, you know? And I think that's potentially viable for us to do, to make him super tanky. Double our chaos resistance and then and get like a huge amount of elemental resistances. Make him very tanky. And then we would need a decent amount of armor. And then we just have our regen keeping us alive, right? But if we do that, let's say that was our primary thing, is that we increased our stuff, elemental resistances and stuff. I think I would still grab these 1% damage nodes, and then on the secondary side, give up the elemental resistances and have a wand and a shield. And then I would be able to have either have a minion wand or a chaos wand and a shield, and then that would give you your increased damage for your chaos damage without needing to go into melee range for like boss fights and stuff. That's the idea there. And then we were talking about our mercenary, because we had the one mercenary witch hunter, which has the decimate effects and the explosion on kill effects that we wanted to do, and then the legionnaire could also do quality on the skills and +1 skill level, and also double up that. Yeah, that is a good point. I didn't think about this, but the legionnaire can double up on his base stat bonuses. So I'm having issues deciding, because essentially we have the Titan Warrior that can run this build probably the most efficiently. And basically the build would just be physical damage, stun, armor break, thorns and armor and health. And get as much health as possible, right? And the Titan has access to 15% more life and more life regeneration here. And we want as much health as possible to get as much regen as possible. And then you can go up here and you get increased strength, which will give you more health, increased strength, which will give you more health, and then 50% effect of small passive skills would increase your thorn damage, your armor, your health, your regen, your armor break. It would increase everything, single stat, your block chance, which would increase your damage. So I think the warrior would be really good with thorns and stuff. We could make it work. But if we were looking at it from the other direction, and we also get more armor here. More armor means more thorns. So all of our armor bonuses would get a bonus, which would give us more thorn damage on top of everything else. So that's one way to look at it. If I go Witch Hunter, you get the Decimate proc, you get a energy shield that renews every, 9 to 5 seconds. You get an energy shield based on your armor. You get 10% additional quality on your skills. You get a +1 level on your skills, and you get double your effective traits like strength. So we could double up on our strength, and then we could wear that helmet that's on our necromancer right now. So you get 6% increased strength, increased dexterity, increased intelligence. But we could run this, get that 6% bonus, and then also get double our stuff. So that 6% bonus turns basically into a 12% bonus to our health. But essentially right now, I'm going to get enough money. I'm going to play the necromancer a little bit. We're going to get enough money to then respec our warrior, and then we're going to bring our warrior to standard. Basically, our warrior went over in this direction to grab these nodes for health regeneration and stuff, but I think it's kind of out of the way to come this far. And these nodes aren't bad, okay? And we're probably going to end up coming back here later because we want things like this defensive reflexes. So I think we want to come over here and grab this stuff. But early game, I don't think it's going to matter so much. I think we want as much damage as possible early game. And then right here is the 10% flat damage and 10% critical hit chance. 5 strength. Basically, we're getting a whole lot of nodes that give us strength and stuff, plus another benefit. So we're stacking as much health as possible. And then if we look here, you get these percentage regen nodes, right? But this is only like a 0.5%, and then this is 5% of damage taken recouped as life, and 20% increased life regenerate, which isn't really that great. And then this is just another, so you get like 1% regen over like 4 nodes. So I don't think that's necessarily worth it. So we're going to cut all of this out. We might end up over here later. And then we want things that increase our thorn damage. So we're going to be looking at like damage versus fire and all that stuff. But we're going to work this direction at the very start. So I think with the Titan Warrior with thorns, you get armor early. You grab these life regeneration nodes. These would be like, this is 0.4%. Then you're getting basically to 1%, and you get bonus armor. And then you have access to these percentages of bonus armor, and then also this 10% increased stun build up if we were going to go this direction. Because this gives you 10 strength and stun build up and melee damage. So I wouldn't be opposed to grabbing this because that's basically 2 points of strength. Or actually, no, that's plus 10 to strength. So that's way more. That's 20 life. Right? Yeah, so that's 20 life, so that would be pretty big. So basically what we're going to be doing is trying to make him as tanky as possible. And then get our health as high as possible, and then we're going to get percentage-based regen. So we don't need percentage-based armor increases until our armor gets very high, so that would be later on into the game. And we don't need a ton of percentage health regen until we have really high health regen, but we are going to need some of it to work with the thorns. And the idea is basically that we're going to have such a high level of regen that we just naturally block and just sit there and swing at people, and we regen so much health that we don't have to do anything. So we go up here, grab these regen, grab this regen, and then I would go ahead and grab this block chance. So, because stagger, I don't know if we necessarily need this. We could potentially cut these out if we don't care about this, you know, block chance, but this block chance would give us more damage in the end, I think. But if we cut these 4 out, we still have to do like 1, 2, and 3 here, and then here. So we could cut those out early. But it depends, because this early into the game, that's increased damage, and it empties our stagger faster, which would help us block. But we could save 1 point if we just go around, so maybe. Depends on how the stats work out, but we want to get to this point and then work this way. And basically, I'm looking at things like this for the warrior. So eventually, if we get our health really high, 5% chance you gain endurance charge, you instead gain up to a maximum of endurance charge, 5% chance to gain maximum, and you get +1 to endurance charges. And then this is giving you a increased percentage of armor, but I wouldn't take this early. I wouldn't take this until we get to the other side and finish the build out. But things like this are what we're going to be looking for that could refill our whole health bar. Because this, in combination with the one that's down here, or is it? It's this one. You recover 3% of your life for each endurance charge consumed. And this, there's multiple endurance charges here. So you can get 10% or something per endurance charge, and you can get 5 to 7 endurance charges, which means that you can basically recover half of your life total by consuming your endurance charges with the war cry. And so if we get like 6,000 health or something, we can get like all that back really quick, as long as we're generating endurance charges, which I think would be really good. And then the armor breaking stuff is what we're going to be looking for. But like, I think early game, see, we'd come right here, grab this, 6%, 12%, 12%, 25%, and then you just keep going. You get block chance, and then probably grab that 1% damage per 1% chance to block. So that'd be like 35% damage early game. Then you could have access to these bleed on hit effects if we wanted to do bleed in magnitude. But you get 10% chance to inflict bleed on hit. So like, we could do this. So it's looking at what you get, 10. So you get 20% chance to bleed on hit. This is probably a fine thing to have early game. But then you just pop over here, and then you have these regeneration nodes that you could get here, 40% increased life recovery with flasks. But this is like 1.3% health regen over 3 nodes if we really wanted to. But if we don't care about that, then we could just 2, 3, save 1 point and grab Battle Hardened. Hits against you have 20% reduced critical damage bonus, and then plus 20% armor and evasion rating. And then you get strength and dexterity, so you also don't lose out on your health points. And then we could go through this armor section, and then we could get increased stun buildup against enemies within 2 meters. So I'm kind of split on that, because basically we can go across this bridge, or we have to come down here. But you have this knockback, 20% chance to knock back enemies with hits at close range. That could be helpful depending on how far the knockback is, to keep people from hitting us, keep people off of us a little bit more, let us regen our health. And then I don't know if there's anything that we necessarily want to come down here for, but we could just grab that, and then there'd be 4, 5, 6, and 7 to get over here. If we come this way, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to get to this point. And then this one would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's probably just better to go the long way and just skip these. But the 30% increased stun buildup is potentially something I would look at, because it's useful. But what I'm looking at with the thorns now is looking at elemental effects. So we can get block damage and defenses from here, block chance. All these block chances would turn into additional damage. Oh, so you're getting, you know, 5, 10, a lot of shield defenses, but you can get 10 damage, and then like 22% increased block chance. Ugh. And then come down into this. I turn Frenzy into power. Yeah, you get power charges instead of Frenzy. Interesting. But essentially, you want to come through here, get past these, come down here, and then we could take this because we get 5 strength. This is giving us 10 strength, which would make up for getting these nodes here if we really wanted it, because it's still giving us strength. But I don't know if we need the life recovery if we're going to use flask or not, but it's nice that that would give us strength. But I would say go through here, and we want this 5 life per enemy killed, and then this 2% chance to recover all life when you kill an enemy. It seems very powerful when it comes to melee damage in like big groups from what I've seen on my Death Knight. And then we can come over here, get the movement speed, which is, you know, so-so. And then 3 life per kill and 3% of life per kill. So this could easily regen a ton of life pretty quickly. And then work our way over, or we could come up. Yeah. We could go from here to there. Grab that. I don't think we could just grab 2 of this, maybe. And then come right here. And then come up. And you have access to armor break, strength, physical damage. Days build up and stuff, but then you also have recover 1% of life on kill, 1%, 2%, 1%, so you get 5% here on kill, and then that would be 8% on kills, so every time that we kill, we'd be getting like 8% of our life back. Every time that we consume all of our endurance charges, we'd be getting like 50% of our life back, and you can kind of see a pattern happening here. But that would be 8, and then you go down here, boom, boom. You get knockback, physical damage, stun, build up, days build up, but the physical damage is the big one. And then right here, poison duration, poison on hit. So you get poison on hit, and then 30% increased magnitude of poison, recover 2% of life on killing a poisoned enemy. That's going to give you, you know, your 10% or whatever from doing all that. So I'd probably just get the poison on hit, and then 2% killing someone with poison. And then you got stun build up and more knockback. This is where I'm kind of curious about the knockback, because you can get stun build up, knockback, and this is giving you strength. Boom, boom, boom. So you're not missing out on all your life points. Every time we're grabbing stuff, we're getting like life. And then down here, heart stopper, so we take less damage from like damage over time effects. And then we have things like poison on hit, 8%. So this 8%, and that, and then maybe a poison node. So you kind of get a gist of what would be going on. But the other thing is we want to generate endurance charges to be able to consume them for health, which requires us to freeze and electrocute. Or we need ways to stack endurance charges, which I don't know what all options the warrior has, but if he has a good enough way on its own to generate endurance charges repeatedly, that's one way to do it. The other way would be to use like the Chaos Ritual to get power charges, convert them to endurance charges. And then the other, yeah, and then the other way would be to, on this tree here, part of the reason I think that we could get away with like grabbing these three and coming down and grabbing this, is because there's these nodes in here. 5% of damage is extra lightning damage, and then 30% increased chance to shock. And we don't need to necessarily shock everybody, we just need to like be able to do freeze. So, and then 5% of damage is extra cold damage, plus 20% freeze buildup. So if we can get enough of that, and I'm pretty sure there's some nodes somewhere around here that gave more freeze buildup and stuff. But if we make our way up to here, you have 30% increased elemental damage if you chilled an enemy recently, 30% increased elemental damage if you ignited, if you shocked. You have these magnitudes of shock. There's like different things that you can get that can give you shock. There's some on the other side, and then you also have access to these recoup effects. So this is plus 20 life, which is like 10 strength, basically the same thing. And then 3% recouped as life. And then you have over here elemental damage taken recouped as life. This recouped as life. There's like all kinds of different effects and stuff that we could look into. Yeah. This could be an interesting tree as well. Damage penetrates resistances. But even on the warrior side, there's some stuff to support like lightning and stuff. You got a bunch of fire ones. So these would be good for like increasing your damage on thorns potentially. Or just increasing your damage overall. And then we want stuff like this probably, where you get increased armor and increased regen while surrounded. Potentially. And then there was a lightning node over here. There's stuff like this. Lightning damage with non-criticals is lucky. 30% increased chance to shock. It penetrates 15% of resistances. So we have access to damage penetration. I didn't even see this node down here, but increased attack damage. %25% increased cold strike threshold. It's like 2 or 3%. Or no, 2 or 3 per 30, so 30 would be like, it'd be like 40 or 50% of their health. This would be crazy to have on the mercenary. Life flasks gain 15 charges per second. In any case, we got to figure it out. The main idea is to get this block chance doubled, to get our health so high that taking damage doesn't matter, and we want to kill people fast enough to where our life regens consistently. So, most damage is possible, very high life, very high armor, very high resistances. The warrior bonus to like the small nodes means that you would get twice as much benefit, or 50% more benefit from all of the life regen, all of the armor, all of the thorn damage, and then the armor, the extra armor would give you extra thorn damage. And then the poison effects would give you extra chance to poison. The bleed effects would give you extra chance to bleed. All of that stuff, all the percentage chances to inflict an ailment and stuff would go up. So I think all of that would be really big. If we go for the mercenary route, the witch hunter basically gets the elemental shield. So you turn armor into an elemental shield. You would have less life and less armor and less thorn damage, but you would get the decimate proc and you would get the explosion damage and stuff like that, but you would have less health, you'd have less armor, you'd have less thorn damage, but potentially more AoE damage. And then the Legionnaire version of that would have increased skill quality, increased skill level. You could double your health from your points, from your strength. So you could double your strength, basically, which would give you more health, but I don't know if it would be more than the warrior. I'm not even sure exactly what else the thing has, so I'm gonna hop off after this because I have to be back in a couple minutes. But Path of Exile 2 Ascendancy stuff. Go back to the same page. So Legionnaire, skill quality 10%, +1 to all levels. Skill gems 30% more. 3 additional skill slots could be interesting. So you could have a lot more weapon skills. 2 copies of the same support gem and different skills would be good for spreading the poison and stuff like that, potentially. Increased cold resistances and stuff, so you could have higher resistances than the warrior could to elements based on your support gems. That's kind of interesting. So a warrior could have higher armor, but you could have higher elemental resistance. You only have to have 1 attribute to use your gems. So maybe you could slot more points more effectively. And then we can double bonuses from intelligence, strength, and dexterity. So it's interesting. Basically, you're giving armor up for elemental resistances. And then you have quality of the skills that you use, which can give you like lower cooldowns and stuff. But increased elemental resistances, and then a big bonus to strength. You're basically going to be getting a ton of strength. With how the build is working out, you would have a metric ton of like doubling your strength. From, well, it'd just be double your health, but that's still pretty crazy, sort of, for the regen. It's kind of hard to say because this is doubling your health, which gives you flat health. And then the Titan one is 4%, so you get 2 4% bonuses to strength, and then you get a 15% bonus to health. So if you had 100 health, you would get 15 health. If you had 100 health, you get like, I don't know, 20 or 30 extra health from those. Where you get 8% more strength, so you would get 8 more strength, which would turn into like 16 health. So you get like 20 or 30 health. This guy would get 200 health. So he would have more elemental resistances and more health, but less armor and less thorn damage. And then the Witch Hunter gets this explosion damage, sorcery ward, which is gonna give him basically immunity to elemental damage while he has it up, which is pretty nuts. But he'll have less armor and evasion. Essentially, he takes away a bunch of their health from the beginning, and then we can get Calling Strike to like 40% or something. It's already like 35 to normal mobs, so if we can get this to like 40 or 50% with that one trait, and then this can get like 30%, then basically he just cuts off a huge portion of somebody's life total at the very beginning of a fight. And then you'd have concentration to keep them from using spells. And you have this regenerating elemental node. And AoE damage. So hard to say. I'm thinking this one, elemental damage and health bonus. This one is probably total damage bonus, like total amount of damage done to like mobs. And then the Titan, you get extra armor. You get a lot of extra armor, which is extra thorn damage, so the actual thorns themselves should be doing more damage. And you could equip a sigil that gives you Calling Strike on a skill, so you don't necessarily have to have Calling Strike on a trait for this. But you'd have to do more total damage anyway to get them that low. This is kind of interesting because it does a heavy stun on enemies that are primed for stun. So you could technically use this on the warrior. Hits are crushing blows, and then when mobs are ready to be stunned and they hit you and they proc thorns, the thorns could proc the heavy stun. But yeah, we got 3 of those that we need to build out. We got the first mercenary that still needs to be finished up. We got the second mercenary, which we haven't really started yet, which we could turn into that, and then we have the warrior that we want to get going. And I don't know which one would be the best, honestly, because it seems like the warrior, the base warrior, would just be better. Probably like starting out. More like probably better at just like gathering loot and stuff because he has extra storage space. You only need like 1 set of weapons and stuff. The other ones I just don't know. The mercenaries, they would have less health less armor. Well, in some cases, they would have more health. More health is more health regen. Less armor is less thorn damage. So they would have to focus more on, like, actual physical damage, I think. Dual wielding, maybe. Anyway, I'll be back here in a little bit.